My name is Mary Murphy and I'm a tax manager and qualified financial advisor with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I'm going to run through the main tax issues arising when you're considering transferring a farm. First of all, I want to make the point that tax should not be the main driver of any decision to transfer a farm. You need to be aware of the bigger picture and the financial independence of all parties to the transfer, both before and after the transfer. Each case is different, and just because your neighbour is transferring their farm in one method at a particular time, that doesn't mean that it's the best method or time for you. Then to move on, I suppose there's two different types of transfer. You can either make a lifetime transfer, whereby three different taxes that come into play is the capital gains tax, the capital acquisitions tax and the stamp duty, or where you transfer on a death. The main tax is capital acquisitions tax. There's no capital gains tax or stamp duty, but obviously we wouldn't advise death as a tax planning tool. First of all, just to outline the main conditions for capital gains tax, this arises where someone disposes of an asset, and regardless of whether they actually receive any payment or not, so i.e. a gift, it can still be liable to capital gains tax. In order to reduce the amount of capital gains tax payable, there is reliefs available, and the main one to look at is retirement relief. So as long as a person is over 55 years of age and they've owned and used the land for the purposes of their farming trade for 10 years, they should hopefully be able to avail of this relief. There's two different versions of the relief depending on whether you're transferring to a child. This relief is generally unlimited, but if you're transferring to a third party, there is a cap of $750 at the moment. You should also be aware that this relief is actually being restricted from 2014, and once individuals exceed the age of 66 years, both versions of the relief have various different caps introduced. The other tax that needs to be considered is by the successor. The first tax that they need to look at is the capital acquisitions tax, and thankfully there's reliefs available for this tax also, and the main one here is the agricultural relief. Generally, as long as a person meets the definition of a farmer, which basically 80% of their assets are agricultural assets, they can avail of this relief. Their actual occupation is irrelevant in terms of claiming this relief. The second main tax that the recipient must consider is stamp duty. This tax can be relieved also by a number of reliefs, such as the consanguinity relief, which is a 50% reduction where the transfers are between related parties, or a young trained farmer relief, which basically reduces the tax to nil. In all tax planning, there is a number of pitfalls and clawbacks that people need to be aware of, so you need to get good advice in relation to this issue. Thankfully, there are many opportunities for reducing the tax cost of a transfer, looking at the order and timing of the relief and making sure that you've structured your affairs so that you can avail of the various different reliefs. Our advice is that all parties to the transfer get accurate and timely advice to make sure that they're making the right decision for them.